Well, I'd like to welcome everybody this evening to the Community Development Committee meeting. It's February 19th and 5 p.m. is our start time. I'd like first to call us to order and get the roll call, please.
Dick Hesselink,
Here.
Supervisor Rice,
Present.
Supervisor Shirley,
Present.
Supervisor Van Zomeren,
Present.
Supervisor Counter.
Present. Okay, do we have any changes or anything that anyone needs to add for the minutes from the last meeting of January 15th?
Nope. I'm good.
So everything looks good? All right, we'll then keep them as draft to the permanent. For public comment this evening, we're going to do this a little bit differently. We do have 4 proposed public hearings this evening, and we're going to move through those public hearings first and get those business agenda items done. After that, we're going to rearrange, if we're okay with the committee, to move this so that we discuss the issues on that are on here concerning the JDA, and move that up, and also talk then about the there was one other, which one was it? Number 5. So we'll be moving them up in order, and then as we get through those, then we'll continue on as it is for the rest of them. So for the first item for the evening then is the public hearing for the proposed amendment of Chapter 14 for the non-metallic mining reclassification. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it is 5:03 and we'll open the hearing on Chapter 14, which is St. Croix County's non-metallic mining ordinance. The amendment to amend Chapter 14 is due to a petition that our Community Development Office filed with the County Clerk on January 29th. And the basis for amending Chapter 14 is because St. Croix County is the only county in the state that doesn't have an ordinance that complies with NR 135, which is the DNR administrative code for non-metallic mining. And the reason why our county doesn't comply is because St. Croix County had a non-metallic mining ordinance or something like Chapter 14 before the NR 135 code came about. Most of our current ordinance, that said, is still in compliance with NR 135, but we did have some other provisions related to zoning, like the setback to the property line, the on-site fuel storage, and also if there was a mine to be approved that mined into the groundwater, those standards were currently in our Chapter 14. And then those made it not in compliance with NR 135. So those more restrictive, I'll call them zoning standards, were removed out of Chapter 14 and put into Chapter 15. So you'll see that exact language copied from one ordinance to the other. Also, just to get into the ordinance, but before all of these 4 hearings, we have provided the proper notice to the DNR, to the public through a Class 2 notice, and all other local government agencies, and that which for St. Croix County, because all of these ordinances, especially Chapter 21, touches every municipality, every municipal clerk also got notice of these changes. So everything has been properly noticed. I'm just going to spend a few minutes on this ordinance because we haven't spent a lot of time on it as a committee. But a lot of this is just to take and make it comply with NR 135, the statutory authorities under Chapter 295, Sub 1. The county has to have a non-metallic mining ordinance, and the reason why we don't just put this ordinance into our general zoning ordinance is if a town doesn't have any zoning, or if they're underneath their own town zoning, then they wouldn't have any reclamation standards for any non-metallic mines in their town. So that's why this is a standalone ordinance. So all of the exemptions here, this is a fairly large section, is right from the administrative code. We had one here and that regarding small mines and that wasn't in our past ordinance. Definitions, we just cite back to the administrative code or other county ordinances. Number two that we had before was very similar, but it didn't go into the same amount of detail as far as progressive reclaiming. As they go through the mine, they are supposed to be reclaiming everything that they are done with or that they've used all the material out of. The other standards here no longer apply because it doesn't go to the Board of Adjustment. The habitat area here, this is not in the administrative code, so that can be done through a CUP by the committee. It just can't be in the ordinance for the DNR to certify. Buffer zone here and all the red highlighted text here, that's the language that went into Chapter 15. Boundary staking is something that we did not transfer into Chapter 15 because we feel that we don't need the boundary staked because the plans are going to show that the acreage is all going to be represented, and basically our staff haven't administered the ordinance that way in the past. On-site fuel storage did go into Chapter 15. And that, so the new text here is to how do you have that completion of successful remediation of the site? What does that look like? How do we evaluate if it's complete? And I apologize for the formatting. This is done through track changes, and so that throws everything off. Intermittent mining, very similar. Maintenance is right in 135, so we had to add that. This non-metallic mining permit, this whole area talks about our zoning categories. It talks about borrow sites. Borrow sites are already addressed up above with those smaller than 1 acre mines, so we don't need that. And then the non-metallic mining permit, I would consider that more of a zoning permit. We've also got operation permit standards in here. Those are the areas that we were more restrictive than the administrative code. And I'll just add that this ordinance hasn't been amended since the general zoning rewrite was done in 2015 to 2017. So that's where I don't think there's ever been the opportunity to move this into that general zoning area. Permit modification, revocation of the permit, and termination. A lot of these areas here were just moved down into the administration section, so it looks like it's a lot being crossed out, but it's not actually. This is now our permitting section of the ordinance, and so some of this, again, it was not needed, and we basically matched the DNR's model ordinance for this section, which is quite lengthy. So about the content of the application, we updated the ordinance sections, and notice and hearing is a big important part because any new non-metallic mining plan, we need to take and provide a hearing. It can work together with the CUP hearing, so they might be going on at the same time, both of them would come to the committee is how this ordinance is. Decisions. There is some provisions for local transportation projects as well as DOT transportation projects in here where they're exempt from a lot of the financial assurance and they're exempt from a lot of the standards for, I'll call it temporary pits needed for fill. So that'd be, you know, town roads, county roads, state roads. They also qualify for expedited review. And even a non-mining operator can also apply for a faster review if they pay the extra fees. Alternative requirements, so here's the permit duration and the transfer language from above and the modifications, so just moved into this. And I'm not trying to go too fast, so if you got any questions, please let me know, but I know we got a full agenda.
Okay, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
Jason, if you can go back to page 15 or 16, number 5 anyway. That's the one I spoke with you about, right there.
Okay.
For number 1 there, will be open and reclaiming under contract with the municipality for a period not exceeding 36 months. And my question is, does that include county highway department? Because are they considered a municipality? If so, you know, that would mean that their pits could only be open for 3 years. And I don't think that's probably good.
That's without, and that having any reclamation or anything like that on site. So this automatic permit, this is really that road construction project where they are taking that sand knob out of the field that's adjacent. But that is NR 135 standard too, so we don't have the ability to change that.
Does that apply to the highway department or does it not apply?
Municipality, I would have to check to see if there's a definition of that in this section. Generally, municipality, and that can include a county.
And I can tell you the definition of municipality in NR 135.03 indicates a city, town, or village. So it does not include the county.
Oh, not county, city, town, or village.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
She's right on it, so. So again, not trying to go too fast, but I realize we got a lot of people here. So this operation permit and the operation plan, this would all be handled through the CUP process and that through the land use. This would be a lot of the same information that we would be asking as part of that process, you know, hours of operation, how many trips, where they're gonna be hauling from, so that section. Reclamation here, again, we had to add some text here to comply with 135. The financial assurance here, one of the things that really doesn't apply much in St. Croix County, but we do have one mine that falls on the border between us and Dunn County. I believe it's the Wilson Quarry. And so there's just been a long-standing financial assurance and permitting on that mine where they comply with both sides because the access to the mine is in St. Croix County, but technically most of the mining activity is in Dunn. And so that language we have to put in there, but I don't see that being another issue that we have in the future. Certificate of completion and release of the financial assurance, the forfeiture. So again, this is all 135. Adjustment of financial assurance, I think that's good on that so that we can adjust for inflation rates. Not excited about number 12. It's a net worth test of the company and that used for financial assurance. I don't think we do financial assurance that way and anything else, but the DNR is requiring us to have that in there because it is in NR 135. So, and then our annual fee section was good. Annual report, this is the report, and that we actually take and receive from them, and then we provide it to the state as well because we have to pay the state annual fees on the unreclaimed acres. So it's actually, there's 2 different annual reports required. And then it gets into the administration, changing land use administrators several times throughout. here and the enforcement section. So is there any questions on any of this? Okay. I wanted to spend a little bit more time on it just to make sure that we're being transparent, but we believe that all the provisions in that do comply with 135 now going forward. With that, would you want to open it up for any comments?
Oh, we'll ask the public then.
Yep.
Thank you, Jason. We're going to open, again, this is a public hearing, so we're going to open this for any comments or anyone that wishes to speak on behalf or for this, or any issues for the noise, or I'm sorry, the proposed amendment for Chapter 14, non-metallic mining reclamation. Just please state your name and where you're from.
Hello, my name is Candy Anderson. I'm with Milestone Materials, and we currently operate 7 sites for non-metallic mining in St. Croix County. So I just wanted to come tonight and show my support for this ordinance. It does bring it into compliance with NR 135, so it's more standardized with all of the other counties that I currently work in. I do want to ask for clarification in section 14.3 of the draft, numbers 9 and 10, permit duration and permit transfer, seem to conflict with numbers 14 and 15, that we would want to look at maybe picking one or the other from the two of those. But otherwise, I support all of the changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on, in regards to the proposed amended Chapter 14 for non-metallic mining reclamation? Again, anyone wish to speak? Okay, moving on, is there anyone on the committee that has any comment or? Okay,
Well, and that looks like I made a mistake, so Candy pointed it out very well. So there is some duplication there. And so if I get to 14.3 here, 9 and 10 is permit duration and permit transfer. And so the permit duration in NR 135 is that the permit and that goes until that mine is reclaimed, or so that it's the end of the life on the mine. And the transfer language is the same. But if we look down here at 14 and 15, looks like I simply made a mistake and I copied this from up above and I didn't cross it back out. So staff would suggest striking 14 and 15. Number 14 is one of the provisions that we've had where a non-metallic mine operator would have to come back to the Board of Adjustment every 5 years to renew their permit. And in reality, in that, it's pretty hard to shut down a pit in that, right in the middle, and that, because they're doing that progressive reclaiming as they go. And so when we talk about fee schedules and stuff like that, our staff would probably do a review every 5 years, an on-site, or even more often than that, where we'd actually measure the unreclaimed acres. But that would be, our preference would be to remove 14 and 15 and keep 9 and 10, because those are directly related to NR 135.
okay, so that would be a suggested change.
Correct.
So, very good.
That
So
addresses your
should we
concern, right?
close then the public hearing on this and move on to business item number 1? So at this point, we'll close the public hearing on proposed amended Chapter 14, non-metallic mining reclamation. And we'll move to business item number 1, which is an ordinance repealing and reclamation, or recreating Chapter 14, non-metallic mining reclamation of St. Croix County Code of Ordinance.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance repealing and recreating Chapter 14, non-metallic mining, the St. Croix County Code of Ordinances, striking Section 5, number 14 and 15 on page 18.
We have a motion and second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. So at this point, we'll begin the public hearing for the proposed amended Chapter 15 general zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the committee has had several meetings talking about the changes to 15, 17, and 21. So I will keep these changes more brief, and I won't go line by line unless we have concerns from the public or from the committee. Chapter 15 was recently amended in March of 2025, and it's only being opened up for a couple of things. One, our ordinance needs to be certified by the Department of Ag, Trade, and Consumer Protection for our farmland preservation certification. And they suggested that we add more cross-references in the ordinance to statute. And so those cross-references were added. The other change in that was regarding cemetery and burial plots, that they had to be a CUP. And then we needed to add the definition of an ag accessory use to it. So those changes were done. Also, and that just with our code enforcement side of it, we wanted to make sure that it was very clear, and the towns support this as well, and that there's only one dwelling allowed per parcel, that it would not accept ADUs. So that's in regards to just code enforcement. And also, Supervisor Van Summeren had brought up about limiting the major home occupations to one per parcel. And so we did that, and then we added some tweaks to the minor home occupation stuff after considering other ordinances and what they had for minor home occupation. And then again, we took that language and that from the non-metallic mining standards from Chapter 14, and we brought that into Chapter 15. So some of the definitions, like I mentioned, for the ag accessory use were tweaked. We did receive public comment from Wari Diaby with our public health department about the definition of a bed and breakfast. And currently, our definition of a bed and breakfast doesn't match with the DAT caps. Actually, the DAT cap, which is the health department license definition for a bed and breakfast. So in other words, the implications that could happen is our health department could be licensing it as one thing and we could be calling it something else, or it doesn't qualify for a bed and breakfast underneath our ordinance. So I think they do make a good point. And so I would suggest changing our definition of a bed and breakfast establishment in Chapter 15 to what Lori mentions here in number 3, and that for the highlighted, just so that everything is working in harmony between the health department and zoning. Any questions or any feedback on that change? Okay. And then in my conversations, I also have received one verbal comment from the Amish, and their comment was that they'd like the committee to consider a one-room schoolhouse in the R1 and the R2 zoning districts. Right now, it's a land use permit, and they would like to consider making that a permitted use on the site. So that was the only public comment that we received on this Chapter 15 amendments, those two. Is there any questions from the committee?
So for the one-room schoolhouse, we currently have that available in R1 and R2, but just with a use permit, correct?
Correct.
And they would like that just acceptable or allowed without a permit?
As a permitted use, yep. Any sanitary would still have to happen, but then they would not fall underneath the land use permit. Some of the confusion is that that one-room schoolhouses have a special exemption underneath Chapter 101.05 of the Uniform Dwelling Code. So they're not held to the same standards underneath the building code. So that's where they're saying, well, does it make sense to have a land use permit? It's still required. And so right here in section 15.285, a private one-room schoolhouse, and I'll scroll right there, in the Ag 1 and in the Ag 2 zoning district, for our farmland preservation certification, that has to be a CUP. And so, but in the R1 and the R2, you guys can make it a CUP, you can keep it as a land use permit, you can make it a permitted use, and that is up to the committee as a policy-making body. Okay.
Okay. My name's Jan Sapurik. I currently live in Baldwin, but I own a farm in Forest Township. My husband and I had a farmland preservation agreement for 25 years. And so this is good that the county is going to make everything smooth for the people that wish to do that. The only thing, it makes me really sad to see that the definition of Ag 1 and Ag 2, the purpose is to preserve productive agricultural lands, protect existing farm from encroachment by incompatible uses, promote further investments in farming, and maintain farmer eligibility for incentive programs. And so it's really sad that the state has taken away that from the community or the county and given it to the PSC to allow such things as solar panels. Thank you.
There was someone else. Come on up, please.
Hi, my name is Laura Connard. I'm a resident of Erin Prairie Township. I just had questions about the zoning ordinance and how ag preservation, and if the solar project is approved, will the farms that are in leasing to Excel, if they'll still qualify for ag preservation, and if any of the new amended terms within that are part of this change.
Would you like me to address those questions?
Sure, please.
Okay. So the farmland preservation certification, and that is kind of a complicated program. And you can see that with the ordinance amendments that we have to make, and we're very boxed in, and that, like one comment was, on what we can do. It goes by a portion of the farm, or how many acres are of the farm, and whether or not they can take and still qualify for the preservation credits for the remaining part of the farm. But in a long story short, there is a penalty fee in that for putting, in that, for say, the whole farm into solar panels that they have to pay back, and that to the state. So a few years ago, I don't know if this is still the current number, but it was pretty significant, and that as far as the penalty. It was in the hundreds of dollars, and that per acre that they had to pay back, so.
Does that help answer your question?
Oh. So the Farmland Preservation Certification Program is administered through DATCAP, and it goes by the percentage or the amount of your farm that you own and that is under solar production. So if you just have a small array and that to serve maybe your house or your buildings on site, you would still qualify for the program. But once you exceed a certain threshold, then there is a penalty fee that you have to pay back to DATCAP and that for that program. So, and it's pretty significant. It's in the hundreds of dollars per acre.
All right. Is there anyone else that has comments or wishes to speak regarding the proposed amended Chapter 15 general zoning?
Sorry.
I have a couple things. There's so much on the agenda, so I'm going to just ask the question maybe in light of all that we've talked about over the last year on keeping our water clean and maintaining the clean water, our groundwater, how has Chapter 15 changed to increase protections for clean water? That would be my question.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, public comments for comments, not for a question and answer period. So just to get you back on track, sir.
So before we close it out, is there any other, anyone else that wishes to speak on the proposed amended Chapter 15 under general zoning? Okay, come ahead, please.
I'm Joe Miller. I live out on Double End.
Can I have you please, we record, if you could please come to the microphone?
We don't speak on the microphone. We would rather just try to speak clear so you can understand.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. We asked Jason to talk on our behalf, and he did a good job. We appreciate that. Just thought we should maybe mention our schools get moved from time to time. And then that land use permit is really no value. And it's only a parochial school. The church owns it. It's not public. There's nobody else allowed to enter our schools. We've been at this like this for hundreds of years, and we were wondering, our plea was that maybe you would consider without a land use permit on our behalf. Jason did a good job. We want to thank Jason. We want to thank you. If there's a concern, our lifestyle we would like to keep like we've been having for a long time. Thank you.
Again, is there anyone else that wishes to speak at the public hearing for the proposed amended Chapter 15 general zoning?
I'm sorry, but you can tell I feel strongly about this. I don't comprehend why any farmer would commit to preserve their land and then change their mind and renege on their contract. Sorry.
Again, and go for the last call on, is there anyone that wishes to speak at the public hearing for the proposed amended Chapter 15 general zoning? Yes.
Laura Connard again, Aaron Prairie Township. I agree with Jan. For landowners that are getting an agricultural preservation credit, And if they, I had a hard time this month with the packet, getting it printed. It was excessively long and I haven't found the information, but I'd request that you guys think long and hard about amendments to the ag preservation ordinance that allow people, considering what our county is facing right now, the tax credits for ag preservations are pretty huge. One of the landowners that's in solar told us about ag preservation and helped us get it. So we personally do benefit from this. It's a good program. But it seems incompatible. Turning into energy production is not ag preservation. It's actually, in my opinion, ruining our community and it's hurting our township a lot. So I'm gonna admit I don't fully understand the zoning ordinance amendment, but if the purpose is ag preservation and you're giving people financial credits for it, even if they have to pay back land for the money that they're not in, there's a lot of large farmers and a lot of large landowners that are doing the solar project. And if they're gonna continue to get tax credits and state benefits for it, it seems highly incompatible. And I'd encourage you to think long and hard about making changes for this. Thank you.
Business item number 2, which is the ordinance repealing and recreating chapter 15 zoning, the St. Croix County Code of Ordinances.
I move that we approve the ordinance repealing and replacing Chapter 15 zoning of the St. Croix County Code of Ordinances.
Did you have any of the suggested amendments that you wanted to include in that motion? Otherwise, you'll do an amendment afterwards. Like the one about the bed and breakfast would be a good one.
After a little prodding, that we further make our definition of bed and breakfast consistent with, I think you said it was the Health Department.
Department of Health, yep.
Yeah. On that topic, I was thinking we could get this on and open it up and then try to define the one-room schoolhouse. That was my thinking. Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Now we can go into discussion. Yes, go ahead.
I just have one question on home occupations. Jason, when you were going through the introduction, you talked about a minor change to the minor home occupations that staff made. Was that after we had talked, or was that included in what we had talked about before?
No, it was included in what we talked about before. I'll get there. So right here, and that we talked about adding signage, should be, generating minimal traffic and that normal for the residential neighborhood, and cannot involve explosive fireworks or repair of motor vehicles. So those are the only three.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
Jason, could you pull up a chart? Where would we fit in if we were to entertain adding the one-room schoolhouse proposal that was put forth? Where would we put that in this 103-page document?
Okay. So I would suggest, just before we get there, I'll go down to 15,371, which is our language on one-room schoolhouses. So 371, when we say private one-room schoolhouse, we say that it's got a maximum occupancy of 37 occupants and that it shall meet our sanitary code requirements. Then where we would put it, if we were gonna make the change, would be in 15,285. And that right here, underneath educational services, if I scroll just right, and that Ag 1 and Ag 2 is a CUP. We have to leave it as a CUP. And then R1 and R2, I believe those are the comments, and that they would like to see that become a P instead of the L.
Can you define the difference between the C, the P, and the L, what the standards are to acquire each of those?
Correct. So a land use permit is an administrative permit, so there's no neighbor notifications. They would just meet our normal setbacks for that. We don't have, so in 15,371 down below that I just went through, we don't have any performance standards, I would say, in that for the schoolhouse. So there's not a lot of review there. In the Ag 1 and Ag 2, that is because it is a farmland preservation thing and that we gotta have them as a CUP. The CUP process, though, has more due process with a public hearing, comes before an elected body like the Community Development Committee, and it does allow you to assign other conditions, and that, say, parking off-street or whatever it might be, hours of operation, which probably isn't a big deal for schools, but that is something. So that's the difference between those permit levels. Making it a permitted use, and that is something that is allowed on the landscape. It can just happen. And you'll see that we do have different uses that are permitted depending on where they fit in. So it's more of a question of, does it fit in the R1 and the R2 district as something that should be just allowed?
When you compare this to, say, our major or minor home occupations where we're not supposed to, in a residential district, add a lot of traffic, a lot of cars or whatever going back and forth, and then we go to our definition where we can have up to 38 occupants, I think having that as a permitted use could open up a lot of worms. I'm not generally a person that likes to add more conditional use permits, but I'm kind of leaning that direction. I don't know what the rest of the committee thinks about that.
Jerry's got a thought.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I might disagree with that, based on how many one-room schools really are put in by anyone except for the Amish community. And I would be in favor of allowing them to have that. Like the speaker said, those schools move from place to place from time to time. And they do follow the other ordinances that we have, the sanitary permits. So I guess I think that because I don't know a lot of people who want to open a one-room school, I would vote for adding that or changing that to a P.
That's in the, you're talking about the R1 and R2, or?
Are you making that as a motion?
I would make that a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second discussion on the amendment. If I can add one thing, I guess I can see in the R1 where it's a 10-acre lot. The concern is in an R2 where you're down to a 2-acre lot and you're potentially in a subdivision development. Most chances are that would be a broke-off lot of a larger parcel with surrounding land, but that's not how it reads in the ordinance. The ordinance then opens you up that could be in the middle of a subdivision too, that would be put into a different situation where you're on a 2-acre lot and now you're also allowing for school facility there as a permitted use. So there is a difference between the R1 and the R2 per se. Go ahead.
Once again, I'm going to say, there are not a lot of people that build one-room schools anyplace, except in the rural area, again, in the Amish community. So, yes, could it happen? Perhaps. Will it happen? Chances aren't very great. So that's why I would go with both. If that became a problem, we could change it at that time. But for now, I'd say include both of them. Because I'm guessing that most of the places where these are going are R1s. Is that correct? Are there any R2s?
Well, I mean, every town's probably got a little bit of R2, you know, but generally speaking, the Amish community tends to be more on the east side of the county. And generally, those are, you know, Ag 1, Ag 2, and R1 categories. So we're not seeing a lot. You can take each one, and that's, so if you wanted only R1 or R2, they don't have to be together. There's lots of different ways to look at it.
Any further discussion? Go ahead.
I agree with Supervisor Counter's description of R1 and R2. I would be more apt to agree with allowing that as a permitted use in the R1, but not the R2.
You have anything to add?
I'm neutral. Are you making an amendment?
No, we have a motion on the
We have a
floor right
motion.
now to approve it in both districts.
But that would be an amendment to the motion, right? Or amendment to the amendment? All right, all right.
You can't make an amendment on an amendment, so you have to vote on this amendment, and then you can make another motion to amend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Oh. All right, well, we'll vote then. The amendment is to allow as a use in R1 and R2, a permitted use to do one-room schoolhouse, which would consist up to 37 students and would still require for a separate sanitary permit per the ordinance. So, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays? No. Nay. So we're split.
Motion fails.
Motion fails. I guess I would make a motion, well, I'll let one of you, if you go ahead, otherwise. You were gonna
doesn't
do it,
matter,
go
it's
ahead,
fine.
please, 'cause I'm the chair.
I will make a motion that we allow this as a permitted use instead of a land use permit in the R1 district and leave R2 as is for the one-room schoolhouse.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 So motion carries unanimous. So now we'll move back then to the proposed amended Chapter 15, General Zoning. We have now an amended motion to approve. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 So motion carries unanimous. So we will have permitted uses then in the R1 district to try to help out with that situation. Moving on, then we'll move on to public hearing under the proposed amended Chapter 17, Lower St. Croix Riverway.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Chapter 17 was reviewed and considered by the committee at a work session last spring, and then a work session and that earlier this fall. And our delay on that was to make sure that we had DNR approval of these amendments. And so the current Chapter 17 resides in 3 separate sections. The first section, 17.01 to 17.09, has definitions, kind of the beginning of an ordinance, if you will. A bunch of the terms in that section are already defined in other chapters of the county's Code of Ordinances. So you'll see that a lot of those definitions were removed because of that. 17.36 is really what our staff uses as the Lower St. Croix ordinance for the Riverway Overlay District. And so that is the real meat and bones of this ordinance. And then 17.7 to 17.72 talks a lot more about, the administration of the ordinance and the enforcement of the ordinance. And this ordinance was the county's general zoning ordinance prior to the creation of Chapter 15 back in 2017. And so when Chapter 15 was created, I believe there was sections pulled out of Chapter 17, and that's how we got left with 3 subsections. And so both 1701 to 1709 and 17.7 to 17.72 have a lot of deletions in them, just because they're already covered in Chapter 15 or the other ordinances. That being said, the changes that were made to Chapter 17 was that we made sure that it complied with NR 118, which is the DNR administrative code for the St. Croix Riverway area. Also, since the committee has taken over CUPs, that those CUPs would come to the committee instead of the Board of Adjustment. So that would be the same as our other ordinances now. While we were doing it, the current ordinance has a stormwater volume of a 1.5-inch rainfall event, and we're proposing to increase that to a 25-year storm event, which St. Croix County is kind of right on the line between a 4.7 and a 4.8-inch rainfall event for the 25-year storm. I showed the committee our spreadsheet that we can use to calculate that amount of runoff. It's got several different options for them to mitigate that runoff, and that's something that we can do all in-house now. So it'll actually, even though we're increasing almost 3 times or over 3 times the amount of stormwater management on the property, it should come at a reduced cost because we can calculate it in-house. They don't have to hire private consultants, et cetera. And that's kind of been the way that the BOA's been handling them too, is they kind of like that 25-year storm event. So that's kind of where that idea came from. And the end goal, again, that the DNR has approved the draft, and our end goal is to make one Chapter 17 Lower St. Croix Riverway District ordinance. So that would be our end product. Any questions on that draft? Okay.
Thank you, Jason. So for the public hearing, is there anyone that wishes to speak on the proposed amended Chapter 17 Lower St. Croix Riverway? Again, anyone from the public that wishes to speak in regards to the proposed amended Chapter 17 Lower St. Croix Riverway? Last call. All right. We will, is there anything that anyone during the public hearing portion? Questions? Okay. Then we'll close the public hearing at this point and move on to item number 3, which is the ordinance repealing chapters. Oh boy, I gotta put glasses. I got too many numbers. All right. Ordinance repealing chapters 17.01 through 17.09 and 17.36 and 17.70 through 17.72, and recreating Chapter 17, Lower St. Croix Riverway Overlay District on the St. Croix County Code of Ordinances. So do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the ordinance repealing chapter 17.01 to 17.09, 17.36, and 17.70, and 17.72, and recreating chapter 17, calling it the Lower Croix Riverway Overlay District of the St. Croix County Code of Ordinances.
Very good.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, then we'll vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. So at this point, we'll open the public hearing for the proposed amended Chapter 21 Municipal Solid Waste Reduction, Recovery, and Recycling.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff is bringing Chapter 21 to the committee underneath the same petition because there was recent administrative code changes to NR 544. And underneath NR 544, they specify and really clarified what is recyclable, what is not recyclable, what are banned items from the landfill, what are not, or what are not, yeah. And so the proposed changes comply with NR 544 and Wisconsin Statute 287.11. There have only been two minor tweaks since the committee looked at this last, and they were cross references within the ordinance itself to the right section that changed. That was caught by the DNR. And also staff just streamlined the ordinance to remove provisions that we weren't able to enforce or we haven't been enforcing. And then that's all we have. It is important to have this ordinance amended just so that the county can continue to maintain our recycling grant and recycling program. And the DNR has approved of this ordinance. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Jason. No, we're public hearing. So for the public hearing, again, is there anyone that wishes to speak in regards to the proposed amended Chapter 21 Municipal Solid Waste Reduction, Recovery, and Recycling? Just want to make sure if there's anybody. I think everybody else was on everything else. So we'll go for a second. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in regards to the proposed amended Chapter 21 Municipal Solid Waste Reduction, Recovery, and Recycling? And last call. All right, we'll close the public hearing and go to business item number 4, which is the ordinance repealing and recreating Chapter 21 for the Municipal Solid Waste Reduction, Recovery, and Recycling of the St. Croix County Code of Ordinances. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the repealing and recreating of Chapter 21, Municipal Solid Waste Reduction, Recovery, and Recycling of the St. Croix County Code of Ordinances.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second. Well, Jerry's got.
Jerry?
Second.
Okay. Jerry for second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So motion carries unanimous. So we're going to move the agenda around then slightly for the numbering. We're going to move to item number 8 then, which is the resolution establishing a counter solar frequently asked questions webpage. We'll let them talk and then we'll do the public comment for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can kind of provide some background on this one. So at the last county board meeting, Supervisor Rowan asked for a webpage, kind of laying out the facts. And so while we don't have a lot of information on the 10 Mile Creek Solar Project, because it's really Excel's project, that's why this is before you tonight, to see, what that information might be. Some of that information may be biased, or it might be hard for staff to remain biased on that webpage. And so we would like direction if the county did want to do this, what that would look like, because it may be very hard to stay neutral. We're all about providing the facts, but really the linking, if there's questions about that 10 Mile Creek page, it should go back to the Excel webpage or the actual PSC docket in that to see what those documents are, because otherwise we're kind of speculating, as we have been through this whole process, on what this project's actually going to look like. So that's what I have for kind of an intro, but that's why it's before the committee tonight.
Okay. Anybody have anything currently on this? Go ahead. Yep, we will. All right. At this point, if there's anyone from the public that wants to speak specifically on this item, though, okay, we want to kind of limit it to the scope of what is being spoke about here. And we will be opening for the other things, so, but just so that you understand that this will relate specifically to the scope of what we're talking about.
My name is Celeste Coberl. I live in the town of Hudson. I did submit a written public comment on this agenda item, number 8, and with it, I attached information about an upcoming online information session about St. Croix County and large-scale solar that will be on March 9th from 5:30 to 7:30. It is co-hosted by the Wisconsin Farmers Union and Farm to Power. And this is being presented in response to requests from people in St. Croix County for exactly what you're talking about, factual information from people who have subject matter expertise. These are people from Wisconsin. They're not industry spokespeople. And there will be time for questions and answers, too. So I did leave a couple of flyers about this over there on the table, but I have some extras. So I would encourage you to refer people to that as a first step. Thank you.
Thank you, Celeste.
My name is David Meyer. I live in Aaron Prairie. I'd like to comment on this solar frequently asked questions webpage. My understanding is that some supervisors think that members of the anti-10 Mile Creek Solar Project community are purposefully spreading false information, and that a county-provided frequently asked questions webpage would set the record straight. The people I've worked with have used many sources, news stories, articles, reports, etc., related to other solar projects to become educated and pass this information along to others. Anything produced by the county could be interpreted as biased, especially if Excel is your only source of information. Don't invest in an FAQ. Save your money for intervention. If you ignore my recommendation and implement a website for your FAQ, make sure your page has a hit counter so that you can track usage, and add a verification so you know that it was used by a human rather than a hit-generating bot. If the purpose of the FAQ, however, is to explain the complex solar decision-making process being used by the county to navigate through this, count me in.
Thank you.
Jan Sapurik. For agenda item 8, while transparency and informing the public are ostensibly good things, we can't have the county spreading misinformation. This is a very controversial issue, and there's going to be many different opinions or ways of stating things. I myself have identified 3 instances in the last 8 months of people in this room who have stated things that are not verifiable or conjecture, speculation, misinformation, maybe not intentional. And that's just since I've been coming since June. So in order to, I mean, it's really going to be hard to stick to just facts without any slant.
Thank you.
Again, it's Laura Connard, Aaron Prairie Township. If the county chooses to do this webpage, which I do not think it's necessary, or it would be possible for you to be unbiased and not influence the public on this, which I don't think is what you're trying to do. I would like some information included about an upcoming workshop on March 5th at 6:30 p.m. at the Hammond Town Hall. There's going to be a workshop that we will help people subscribe to the Public Service Commission's website. You will then be, once you're subscribed, you'll be able to submit comments, and you'll also be able to apply to be an intervener. So the community is working hard to help people understand this kind of complicated process, and if you do a website, please make a spot that you can include information that the community wants shared as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment regarding item number 8? Yes.
Hi, I'm Angie Bose, and I'm in the town of Hudson. I'd actually like to support this item as long as we are using neutral subject matter experts and not relying solely on Excel or other unverified sources for this. So let's make sure it's the truth if we're going to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak in regards to item 8?
Scott Miller Baldwin. In my personal opinion, with the technology that's available today, it really is not a good use of county resources to supply this information. If you do, I would keep it very transparent, like what we're talking about, why you guys are making decisions the way you do. I don't think anybody needs help running the internet. And if they do, there's probably some resources for that as well. So that's how I see it. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, continue on then with item 8. So we'll open it up, I guess, on back to the business item 8 and go to any questions or things or if anyone wants to make motions on this particular item. Go ahead.
I just had some comments. I also don't think this is worth our time. Since the last county board meeting, I've been asking people who have come into my shop, which is more people you can imagine, actually, if they ever look at a FAQ site and what they think of them. And, you know, most people don't. They know they're there, but people like to form their own opinions, and FAQs really are usually one-sided or the other. And I think this would be a foolish thing for the county board to undertake. As somebody mentioned, the internet is filled with answers and questions and frequently asked questions, and if anyone wants to have someone else's opinion, it's very easy to go there, but I don't think we should form that opinion. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
I would have to agree that I believe that there isn't hardly any trust left in this world for big corporations, and probably even less for government. So when you put something together, people are going to look at it as one-sided, whether it is or not, because you're getting your information from who? So I think, I'm with Jerry, I don't think it's, use the money other ways, please.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I have a different point of view. This room has been filled for the last year with people who have different points of view, and the information that comes to us is varied. One of the frustrations that I think we've felt as a committee is, and I've said it before, we don't have direct jurisdiction over large-scale solar projects. That authority resides with the Public Service Commission. And it doesn't mean we don't want to hear what people think about it or have to say, but this has been an expensive endeavor for our staff to have to deal with. I would like to see a very stripped-down, simple, whether you call it an FAQ, just the facts, or just a simple resource that people can go to, then to link to additional information. Later, we'll be talking about a proposed consideration for a JDA, Joint Development Agreement, that makes it very clear that the county doesn't have jurisdiction over large-scale solar projects. So I would like to serve as a resource that can direct people to where they can get information. Whether you call it a lack of trust, I mean, trust has to start somewhere, and it has to start with the truth. And the truth is that we don't get to decide directly whether we can weigh in, we can opine, we can act as an intervener, but we will not ultimately make this decision. So the path that the county board has been down is a dual path to consider both a joint development agreement and an intervener role, which is much more complicated than most people want to think about. But it is, according to separate lawyers, additional research, it is the path that protects the county residents the most when the PSC decides whatever it's going to decide. So having just a simple website that restates what the county role is, linking to the PSCW site, you can decide whether or not you want to link to an Excel site or not. But as time goes by, Excel has indicated they're going to apply. There will be additional documents that are listed in the application. And I would think that people would want to know things like environmental impact statement and not have to fish around for that kind of information. I did have a couple of other documents, items that we could link to. It would, you know, I trust our staff to use good judgment in putting clear information. If and when we were to adopt a JDA, I'm not saying we will tonight recommend it, but if we were to, that would be a place where that could be housed, a document for a simple link and not have to fish around in our committee agendas and records. So I'm not suggesting that we have something that weighs in on the relative merits of certain kinds of energy production, whether or not coal, wind, gas, or solar are viable sources of energy. That is not our role. That wasn't what we were elected to do. So I'd like to see a very narrow scope of just, you know, if you want to call it just the facts, ma'am, that people can go to at any given point and say, well, what is the status of this thing? And then link off to other sources that are the definitive decision-making body. So that's why I will move that we resolve to establish a county solar frequently asked questions webpage.
There's a motion on the floor, so it either needs a second or it needs to die for lack of a second before you can comment.
There is. She just made a motion for. I'll second it for discussion.
I would disagree with having a website. I think that this is not a county project. It is Excel's project, so let them, they have a website already. They have what they want on it. The rest is through the PSC. We don't need to tie up staff time, money, resources. As this thing moves along, and once it gets submitted, it'll move rather quickly, where I could see that tying up, I'm guessing it's going to be community development, maybe, staff time into updating this website, where as things move progressively faster right away, and then it sits for a while, but there's gonna be a lot of information that's gonna wanna go on that website if we have one, that's gonna take somebody a lot of time to do. So I think that as a project that is not us, I don't think that we have a place that we can either do this objectively. And I think really where this, the ask for this resolution was coming from was kind of a slam on the anti-solar group, saying that they were processing misinformation. And I don't necessarily like how the question for this this agenda item came from in the first place.
Yeah, as I've said before, I think too that it would be a waste of time, because if we keep it simple, then it's too simple. And if we keep it complicated, it's hard to do that without being biased to one side or the other. I think the best position for the county on this is to step back. Like I said earlier, there's all kinds of information out there. It's not hard to find. You don't have to fish around for it. Surfing is very easy. You can do it with speech, you can do it with your tongue, or you can do it on a keyboard. Let people do that if they are so inclined. And let's not let our bias show. Thank you.
All right, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And nays?
Nay.
Nay. All right. So if we fail, do we want to do anything else with this particular agenda item then?
Just mark for the record that we have supervisors said it's not our project. So I'm hoping that we don't have this room as filled in the future as we do. This is not a zero-cost project for us, whether we have a website or not.
Agree. All right. We'll move on then to item number 9.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. So to provide some of the factual information, kind of where we're at, I'm going to take a step back in case anybody in the room doesn't know. At the November County Board meeting, the county board elected to seek guidance from a Tolley's law firm with help with negotiating the joint development agreement between the county and Excel. And after that, our staff and that in emergency management met with the Tolley's, and that to talk about the emergency response plan, because that was one of the main considerations or concerns that the county board had. Shortly thereafter, they also met with Excel. That was again towards the very beginning, I believe it was in November still. And there has not been any meetings with Excel and that since then between the Tolley's, between the county staff or anything. So I just want to be very clear and transparent with that. We as staff haven't spent in that much time, actually very little time in the last few months and that because it's been in a Tolley's hands. I think from the joint development draft that's in the packet, you can see that there is a lot of changes. And so Tolley's was working on that the last 4 months roughly, or 3.5 months. So that being said, this is intended to be just a first draft. And with the election of the county board, and that we wanted to make sure that we got it to the committee so that we could get direction from you on how you'd like to proceed. And so eventually, a JDA document would have to be approved by the full county board, but it is supposed to come through the committee level as a standing committee before it goes to the full board. That being said, and that staff's not trying to rush this matter, we're not trying to, get it to go through or to get it off from our plates in any fashion. So we kind of see that there could be like three options that the committee could possibly choose. The committee could make changes to the JDA tonight if you wanted, if you were prepared to do that, and send that to Excel. That could be an option. Another option could be to take the Otoli's draft of the JDA, potentially send that to Excel for their feedback and any changes they might have. Or if the committee thought that they'd like to have full county board input, or they'd like to have full county board consideration, or if there was an approval or denial of the JDA, those options could all go to the county board and that as well. So as far as an update on the project, the 10 Mile Creek project has a website on the Excel page. They have also created a docket with the Public Service Commission, which is right here in this cover memo. So any member of the public can go out there and search that docket number and find that there is, as of about a week ago, there was 4 documents that had been filed: the engineering plan and the engineering plan cover letter, a public comment by Fran Comrie, and then a cost increase by Overland, and that's the last name of the author of that comment. All we know from Excel is that they still intend to file their application sometime in 2026, but that is all we have. So with that, I would turn it over. I do apologize for not being able to get the JDA in the packet sooner. Staff received it at the end of the day on Friday. And so, Heather and that had to take and review it over the weekend so that we could get it published on Tuesday morning because Monday was a holiday for the county. So with that, I'll turn it over to any questions that the committee has. Otherwise, we can open it up for any comments.
Just one thing that I'd like to add to Jason's, and that's the dollar amount that we're at so far with the Otoli's law. We're just under $30,000 from November to this point right now.
Yeah, my question is, I had thought that what the board decided was to engage Otoli's law to negotiate on behalf of the county. So what we're seeing here is, I'm just wondering how many times we'll be talking about this. It is a step in the negotiation, but as you've stated, you haven't met with Excel, neither has Otoli's. So we're seeing, yes, one time.
Yes. Attorney Rebecca Roker and I met with Excel Energy on November 4th of 2025, the day after the county board approved the resolution for
So
her to
that's
negotiate.
November 4th. In terms of a negotiation, it's not uncommon to have a lot of back and forth. And what I'm getting at is how much back and forth. What I had thought that the county board wanted to see was something that was much more fully negotiated by Excel, at least that's why I interpreted it, or by Otoli's on our behalf. Does that make sense? So what we're seeing here is a new version of a joint development agreement for consideration. In my view, I think we should table this motion or a resolution here until such time that Otoli's has actually engaged with Excel. We don't know if Excel will accept or reject anything in here. We could add to it. We could sit all night and add to it. I have a list of things I would add, but we don't know where we're at here. So I think this is premature to have us as a committee look at this extensive document. So I move to table the resolution.
First, we're going to do
Public comment first? Okay, all right.
So I have to do that. Okay. Excuse me.
I think he's going to call by name.
Oh, are you going to call us
I
by
have a bunch where you want.
submission
one
order?
on- Were you one of them on the list? Okay, you're the first one, David Meyer? You're up anyway. so
Happy to comply.
Thank you, David.
David Meyer, Aaron Prairie. As far as this JDA goes, please don't submit it to Excel for review. If your reason for continuing this JDA nonsense is to show the PSC that you have tried, that evidence already exists. Per your own comments over the last several months, there have been multiple versions, discussions shared between the county and Excel. Your evidence of trying already exists. Unlike some people in this room, perhaps, I've read the JDA. And as for the comments to that, I'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, the decommissioning proof of credit was a nice ad. But you got to remember, Excel's already told us that we're going to pay for that decommissioning cost via higher rates. The bad, $25,000 for fire and safety and the equipment and training is far short of what they're going to need. The lack of deeper setbacks for BES was a big miss, and there was very little to make anyone feel safe or that would be compensated for any health-related issues stemming from karst. The ugly, please replace the $50,000 a year advertising of Excel at our schools with payments to adjacent property owners instead. If you do go ahead with the school donation, please recategorize the education from STEM to history, because once nuclear takes over, that's what solar will be. As a reminder, the townships have still had virtually no chance to provide input on the JDA details. I'm taking into account the meeting where Excel, Aaron Prairie, and Hammond all attended a county meeting in 2025, where the townships were basically prevented from making any comments while Excel provided a 20-minute commercial. If any supervisor would like to see my marked up copy of the JDA with my comments and questions, let me know.
Thank you, David. Next, we have Tom Bruschendel. Brunchano. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the joint development agreement. After reviewing this proposal, my primary concern center on public health, safety, and the lack of adequate safeguards for residents who live and work near the proposed battery storage facility. Large-scale battery energy storage systems carry well-documented safety risks, including fire hazards, thermal runaway events, and the release of toxic smoke and chemicals during failures. Yet the current draft does not clearly explain how these risks will be mitigated, monitored, or communicated to the public. There is no detailed discussion of emergency response planning, evacuation procedures, or coordination with local fire departments and first responders, who would be on the front lines in the event of an incident. Equally concerning is the absence of meaningful analysis of long-term health impacts on nearby residents. Proximity to industrial-scale energy facilities raises valid questions about air quality, exposure to hazardous materials, and the cumulative health effects over time. The JDA should require independent safety assessments, ongoing air and environmental monitoring, and transparent public reporting so residents are not left in the dark about the potential risks to their health. The draft also falls short in its approach to community engagement. Health and safety concerns cannot be addressed after the fact. Residents deserve a clear, ongoing role in oversight, not just a brief comment window. A 3-day public review period is insufficient for a project with potential life safety implications of this magnitude. Finally, the agreement does not adequately protect neighboring property owners from the consequences of perceived or actual safety risks. Facilities of this nature can affect property values and insurability, placing a financial burden on the residents who had no role in approving this project. The JDA should include enforceable protections to prevent residents from bearing these costs. In closing, while energy development may offer benefits, those benefits cannot come at the expense of public health and safety. The current JDA does not provide the level of protection, transparency, or accountability that our community deserves. I strongly urge the committee to revise the agreement to place health and safety, not speed or convenience, at the forefront of decision-making. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Next, we have Ryan Semp.
Ryan Semp from Hammond. Thanks to the board and the chair or the committee for letting all the residents speak. I live here, and like many of my neighbors, I am not against energy projects. What I am against is moving forward with something this large without clearly protecting the people who live nearby. This agreement doesn't give the residents confidence that the health and safety have truly been considered. Large battery storage facilities, they come with risks, fires, equipment failures, and toxic smoke if something goes wrong. Yet the draft does not explain in plain language how these risks will be handled, who is responsible in an emergency, or how the first responders will be prepared. There is also very little discussion on the long-term health effects. People that live, work, raise families near this site. We deserve to know how the air quality will be monitored and also water. What happens if there is a release of harmful chemicals, and how will people be informed? Not after the incident, but before one ever happens. What is especially frustrating is the process. A 3-day review window is not enough for residents to understand a project that could affect our safety and property values for decades. This is a project is truly safe, then the argument should be clearly demonstrate that with strong safeguards, ongoing monitoring, and real community oversight. Until then, this draft needs serious changes. Our health and safety should come first. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Next, we have Jan Sapurik.
I'm Jan Sapurik, currently in Baldwin. It was really hard for people to find this draft JDA because it was put up later on my phone. I downloaded all 311 pages, but I couldn't get the JDA, and finally got a stranger emailed someone who emailed it to me. So let's not do this again. Okay, why is this JDA being done now? Because Bob Long, as county board chair, directed the lawyers to do it. I don't like it. It seems like a yes when we mean no. The main point is that over 90% of the county residents are adamantly opposed. This should be stated loud and clear at the beginning. State that these terms only kick in if the PSC doesn't dictate better requirements. Don't include anything that could be worse than the PSC will order anyway. That's going to be hard to know. We are not going to know ahead of time. 2C2, to ensure the project's impacts on public health, welfare, and safety are mitigated. Yep, that sums it up. There will be impacts that need to be mitigated. Number 4, some firefighters have stated they will not attend battery fires because of the toxic chemicals. Battery storage uses used EV batteries in shipping containers. 90% of the batteries come from China. Having battery storage in a residential area is a terrible idea. Google battery storage fire California. It burned 5 days. This one in Moth's Landing. This was the fourth one at that battery storage. A news reporter called it a wake-up call. 4B should say at least 120 days. Number 5, I don't see any Exhibit A. Number 5K, it's hard to believe Excel will never drive on a township road or a private driveway. I've seen them do it. They better obey road postings when they're soft in the spring. Video shall be used to prove abuses. Number 9, Elwood said the county and townships would get $1 million per year shared revenue payments. Jason was quoted in the newspaper saying—
Point of order. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we have county board rules about using board member and staff names. So, and I haven't brought it up in the past, but, and I understand the emotion, but you can refer broadly to supervisor or staff.
Okay. We were all here. It was in the newspaper. But a person was quoted in the newspaper saying $4,000 per megawatt. I Googled and found $2,000 per megawatt. And of course, the county will only get $400,000, the townships $100,000 each. The disadvantages will cost far more. 11C, we don't want their $50,000 to indoctrinate school children. They can keep it. 13A, without offensive noise. How would you like to be a neighbor and listen to this 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, for 2 years? Torture. 13P, Karst, Excel's so-called expert needs to be refuted at the PSC. 13G, water protection needs a separate paragraph. For harm, contamination, pollution, or adulteration, the county should remediate and send the Excel the bill like the roads. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jan. Next, we have Carrie Willerby.
It's probably Willoughby. You can pass. Keep going.
Keep going.
They're saying a good job. They're doing a good job.
Thank you. Next, we have Celeste Coberall. Thank you.
Yeah, Celeste Coberall, Town of Hudson. Please listen very carefully to what people are saying, because I too have read the JDA, and I submitted previously a written comment line by line and also section by section. This is a much improved version, but it still needs a lot more work. And again, as I've said before, I have more than 4 decades of experience as a facilitative mediator. I've observed and facilitated an awful lot of negotiations. People talk about the negotiation dance, and it's the back and forth. And sometimes it's slow, and sometimes it's medium, and sometimes it's fast, and then it slows down again. So it is frustrating to have the amount of time that it takes to get a good JDA. But getting a good JDA is a way for every person, whether they like a solar project or they don't, to make it as good as it can be and to get as much as you can in order to avoid problems, solve problems, provide some monetary compensation. Will it be perfect? No, but it can be very good. This one needs a lot more in order to be very good. But people have raised very specific concerns. I raised very specific concerns. Here's the deal. Your attorney can only negotiate to get what you tell your attorney you want them to get. If you don't ask, you don't get. People here are telling you what they want a JDA to get, even if they don't want the project, if it's going to happen. How can we make it as good as possible for everybody who has concerns about it and for the county? So it is very appropriate for this committee to give specific direction to Atoli's law firm to say, we need to strengthen this. In the comments that I submitted, the intent was to reduce ambiguity about who will do what and by when, to increase protections and remedies for people living near the project and for the general public, to strengthen the emergency response plan so that we better protect our public health and safety, to increase the safety of the battery energy storage system, to increase protections for the quality of our surface waters and our groundwaters, to increase protections for our natural resources and wildlife, and also to provide for the continued productive agricultural use of agricultural lands by how the project is sited and how it is designed so that, if possible, it's on non-prime farmland, and if possible, we accommodate agrivoltaics, which can be done. So please give specific direction to your attorneys about what you want them to achieve. And remember, if you don't ask, you don't get. So ask for what you want. Thank you.
Thank you, Celeste. Next, we have Scott Miller.
Scott from Baldwin. Thanks again for all your time tonight. You know, the sad part about this is I hear some $30,000 has already been spent with some law firm, you know, to discuss something that shouldn't even exist. There's no enumerated powers for our federal government to fund so-called, call it economic development, and or create the crisis of we're not going to be able to survive unless our federal government, you know, unlawfully funds these projects. This project wouldn't exist without unlawful funds from our federal and state government. So if we could stop it in its tracks by, you know, going back in time where we lost our education system by centralizing it to our federal government. We don't understand our Constitution. Our constitutions were put in place to protect our rights, to guide our governments. Nowhere in our constitutions did we say our federal government was supposed to be this big behemoth that can bribe, create crises, do all this stuff that makes us sit here and have meetings about stuff, about paying lawyers and benefiting politicians. Because let's face it, the only people that are winning in this whole situation are the lawyers, the politicians, you know, and the big corporations that are benefiting. So I know that doesn't help us today, but we wouldn't be here if we all understood our Constitution, okay? So this JDA thing, I mean, it's like we either are for or against it as a county, right? Like there's only two ways. Now, there can be people that are for, people that are against. I'm all about property rights. Really, I mean, they're really the only ones who are going to sit here are the ones that are going to benefit it, right? The corporations that are going to benefit from it, or the landowners. And I'm all about their property rights, right? But this wouldn't exist if our federal government wasn't bribing, wasn't creating fake crises to go over our rights and go on top of the people, right? So at the end of the day, I feel bad for everybody that's put in this situation, because we shouldn't even be talking about a joint development agreement. And then we're, on the other hand, we're over here talking about intervening, right? So we're either working on something with somebody in a development agreement that tells you you're in, and then on the other hand, we're out because we're going to try to intervene and we're going to work against it. So I feel bad. It's a crappy situation, and I appreciate all your guys' time. But in my opinion, this, based on what I've heard, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of money been paid out, but they've met with XL one time. We got a $30,000 bill. I don't know who's benefiting. It definitely isn't the people. I mean, we're going to get some crappy energy that's going to take up productive farmland. So I think this whole development agreement, or this, the JDA, is just smoke and mirrors. Like, I don't know. We just gotta read our Constitution, figure out the rights of the people, and start standing up to our government. And there's another topic coming up that I guess I'll save that comment for that time. But, you know, it's unfortunate, but we got to just start standing together, and let's call it what it is. The money is unlawful. They wouldn't be doing it without the money. So we should say no, no, and more no. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. So is there anyone else that would like for public speaking that hasn't spoke on this particular issue? Okay, come ahead.
Bonnie Smith, Baldwin Township. I wasn't going to speak. I've said a lot already all through the summer. First, I want to touch on what Laura said about March 5th at the Hammond Township Hall. She talked about signing up to be an intervener, signing up with the PSC so that you could comment or you could be an intervener. But another thing that it does when you sign up through the PSC is every time something's put out, a comment's put on it, something's put out, it comes into your email. So you don't have to go on there and search every day. So it's a good thing. So someone's gonna walk us through that. I want to touch on the JDA, and it's already been said, no JDA, because it will gag you. It's a gag order. Now you can't speak of anything that's in that JDA. How are you going to intervene? Don't know, because we can't talk about any of these things that we signed that we agree with. Do you agree? No, not unless they're going to, build a firehouse themselves and take care of everything that they come into damage. Why would you agree to it? So, point being, no JDA, because it's against, like what Scott said, you can't say, yes, I agree, and no, I don't want it. So, March 5th, Hammond Town Hall. Be there.
Thank you. There was one other.
Laura Condard, Aaron Prairie Township. Thank you for letting me speak again this evening. I was struggling with what to say or if I should even make a public comment for this meeting, but at 5 a.m. this morning, an email with my daily devotion and prayer arrived, and I found the message I wanted to share. It's borrowed from an organization called Primetime with God. I pray for my family and for the generations to come, that you will help us be good stewards of your creation, to see your kingdom come here on earth as it is in heaven. Matthew 6, verse 10. Please guide our leaders and those who are making decisions, giving each one the desire to spread your blessings and peace, and the wisdom to handle the resources which you have so lovingly provided. I pray I will be a good steward of your beautiful creation in this world, which you have provided to me and for all the peoples of the earth. In the abundant name of Jesus, I pray, amen. And again, as I always say, I'm sorry I get emotional. I live with a head injury, and emotional dysregulation is part of what comes with it. But it shows my passion. It shows why I come here almost every month and continue to speak up. Our earth needs protecting. In 2012, I named my farm Heaven on Earth. I never anticipated the place that I chose to live and call my home, my sanctuary and place of healing following my head injury, that it'd be turned into an industrial-scale energy plant. People toss around the term solar farm, but this is not farming. It is not agriculture. It is not agrivoltaics, the term used for dual-use agriculture and energy production. Using a few sheep for vegetation management and weed control is a public relations stunt. It's not a true livestock production model. This morning, also around 5 a.m., my brother-in-law from Georgia shared a video with me. It summarizes how and why St. Croix County is being used and targeted by Xcel Energy. They are not being a good neighbor. They are being a predator, seeking to save the grid connections associated with the King plant to keep their market share and make financial numbers to keep their shareholders happy. This industrial solar project isn't being proposed here because it's efficient, because it's going to keep energy rates down, because it's renewable and good for Mother Nature. It is being proposed because it is quick and cheap to build. At 3 separate community meetings, Excel employees admitted this to me. And the message that I got in the email was from Kristen Megan Kelly. She's an environmental health specialist. She was talking about data centers in Indiana, but what she said applies to us. They look for locations that are cheaper, that have loose zoning, that have minimal resistance from the communities. I don't think they expected the lack of resistance that we've put on for them. She said the proximity to existing transmission corridors, substations, and utilities, that's why farmland in rural communities becomes targets. It is not because they are the safest locations, it's because they are the fastest ways to obtain under permit. We're here because this is a Minnesota issue. It's a mandate in Minnesota about green energy. They shouldn't be coming and trying to take our land for this. Please vote no to the JDA. Tell Excel we do not want your industrial solar project in our county at the size and scale proposed, and vote yes to aggressively intervene in the Public Service Commission in opposition of this project. My final request for you tonight is to listen to an audio clip. It's the sound of the pylons being pounded in during an industrial solar installation. This is the noise that I will hear 12 hours a day under the JDA that was proposed tonight from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for God knows how long. If you intend to vote yes, I ask that you play this audio in your home, in your office, in your school, in your yard, 12 hours a day. Subject yourself to the same thing that you'll be subjecting me and my neighbors to. If it's not something you're willing to subject yourself and your neighbors to, or how you want to work, my farm is my home, my farm is my workplace. And if you don't want to subject yourself to it, don't make us. I've been told that this noise will be audible for a 2-mile radius. I've asked Excel how long construction will take and how many posts will be pounded in for the solar array and the fencing, but I have not gotten an answer. They tell me they don't know. Once again, I don't believe them. They don't want to tell me. They don't want us to figure out how long it's going to take and how disruptive this is going to be to our life. With my central nervous system dysregulation, hearing this noise, it's not something I'll get used to. It's not something that will become background noise. It's something that's going to make me have to move from my home. The internet is dying. It's not fast enough to play. Oh, that is. It's dying. I'll save you from any more of it. We don't even want to listen to it for 30 seconds, so think about people who are going to have to listen to it for the whole construction period. My final comment for tonight is in response to comments that I've made earlier tonight about the county not having jurisdiction over this project. There's a step in the right direction. A message was just sent out that a bill was passed at the Capitol in Madison that the Ag Committee passed the first step in a bill that's bringing county control back county or township control back. It came in during this meeting, so I didn't get a chance to look at what it was, but the tides are turning on this. Someone else talked about solar being a thing of the past. There's new and better energy production methods that are coming down the pipeline. The federal government doesn't want this. I've talked about before, the Department of Ag doesn't want this, and thankfully now it sounds like some state legislators are trying to correct the error that happened when they turned all this decision-making and control over to the PSC. So please keep track of that and know that some support maybe is coming your way to help bring the decision-making back to where it should be. Thank you for letting me make a comment.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has not had an opportunity to speak for the public comments on this particular issue? Seeing none, and we'll close public comments. And again, go back to the development agreement.
So where do you think the committee is at? I can go through and highlight some of the changes in this JDA. If you don't feel like that would be a useful use of our time, we don't have to either.
I think it's useful. There's several reasons. I know I've made plenty of public comment against a JDA. People know where I stand on it. I think that we had lots of discussions in closed session. There's a reason we're doing what we're doing, and I will leave it at that. But I think that our attorneys need to know what we're thinking on the JDA and how we want it revised at this point. So I think it's important to go through. Do you want me to start? All right. I think we've heard plenty of comment. I'm not going to double up on the comment that was already made. The first comment that I have that I know that we talked to council about was test wells for groundwater testing. And then there's three main areas that I want to cover tonight, because there's a lot to cover and we'd be here all night. Decommissioning, battery storage, and emergency notification. If we don't get those things in the JDA, the rest don't really matter, in my opinion anyway. So my notes start with decommissioning, so we'll start there. Under financial assurance, number 10B. Number 2, it talks about 30 days, within 30 days of CPCN approval, they should provide the decommissioning plan. That is the wrong number, I'm sorry. So there is the first financial assurance in the JDA is for 10% financial assurance, and that is within 90 days of start of construction, 10%. Okay. So on number 2, when within 30 days of approval, I would like to see that change so that we have a 20% assurance at that point. Number 4, the next level in this joint development agreement was a 50% on the 5th anniversary. I would like to see that stricken and changed to prior to, or within 90 days of prior to start of construction, that we have 100% of decommissioning assurance at that point. In number 3, it talks about the 5th anniversary. An expert chosen by Excel will be approved by the county, will determine whether decommissioning costs have changed. I would add a line in there that if costs have increased with this review, Excel shall modify the insurances to match. If we go down to 10C, I'd like to modify, it says, once decommissioning is completed or marked completed by the PSCW, the assurance would be released to the county. I would like that change to be 50% of the assurance is released by the county. And then to add a new line talking about the remaining 50% assurance shall be released after, I'm not exactly sure how many days, from the PSCW completion date if the test wells do not show signs of drinking water issues and/or any signs of PFAS. This shall be determined by comparing the test wells during the project compared to after decommissioning. If water quality issues are found, the remaining financial assurance will be held until any impact mitigation is complete and the test wells verify it. Moving on to battery storage as my second topic.
Just a clarification, Supervisor
yeah,
Shirley.
sure.
On 10C, were you requesting that language, and that would be right here? I believe that's where you were talking.
Right. So that talks about terminating or ending the financial assurance with termination of decommissioning by the PSCW. So,
Okay, perfect. Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
Down to battery storage.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What I'd like to do, it's been 2 hours. I'd like to take a 5-minute break for everybody. Get a bathroom break, whatever you need to do, and then we'll be right back in. Give it 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you. We'll reconvene the meeting at this time. There we go. So we'll continue on with the presentation is from Supervisor Shirley.
All right, to go to battery storage was our next section. In general, battery storage needs to be expanded a lot. We have one paragraph on battery storage. We need a lot. So I would like to add subsections to this, and this is just a start of what we actually need, because I'm sure I'm missing things. We need to call out specialized fire department trainings for battery storage systems. We need to create a separate section within the emergency response plan for specifically battery storage systems. And my first comment about water quality test wells, I would like to see in there, personally, I put a number on it as additional water quality test wells if they're going to use battery storage of 2 for every 100 megawatt hours of system. As we move down to more detection and safety measures, I would like them to specifically list all safety measures proposed, such as thermal monitoring, gas and smoke detection, ventilation, all within a separate battery storage system submittal. And then we move to monitoring, notification. So as we heard from Excel's battery storage or fire mitigation people, ventilation is the first thing that will offset gases. So I'm not exactly sure how they would propose to do this, but I think that the residents around that area deserve that if active ventilation occurs and that switch is switched, that that monitoring call comes to the county emergency management. So we know exactly when that switch was done. And then notifications need to go out for whatever square mile radius around there that we determine necessary. That gets into my next topic. Anytime that there's a detection issue or an issue that escalates to active ventilation, notify all property owners. I just said that, sorry. And it will notify that there was a potential environmental or health issue. If that, continuing on, if that happens and there is an issue or a case, Excel shall hire and pay for an environmental assessment of each emergency management issue that arises to and beyond the ventilation escalation, and reports to be made to St. Croix County. Excel shall pay any landowner that is adversely affected by ventilation offsets, fire, smoke, water containment issues from the battery storage system. Emergency management and risk coverage, a separate financial assurance shall be provided for any battery storage system incorporated with this project. I would say with a minimum of $400,000 per megawatt hour of battery storage. And then I would like to see a subsection for construction standards. Battery storage systems will be within a system capable of fully containing any and all fire suppression runoff deemed toxic waste after mixed with the issue on site into holding tanks. All runoff shall be fully contained. The entire system must be fully contained within an impervious area. Additional fire suppression shall be required to be part of any battery storage system as proposed. In the event of a fire or an explosion where emergency management is necessary, Excel shall reimburse the responding entity for any and all expenses related to the response. And then just a few other topics. In section 2A, it calls out for representations and warranties. In A, I would propose that that is changed to the project is currently under the current jurisdiction. I think that there is a tide moving there. I don't want to get tied in with a JDA saying that we agree to something that may change. I would also add, I would agree, I think somebody said earlier about a grant for emergency response. I think they have 20,000, 25,000 in there, if I remember correctly. That needs to be increased. I've said it before, but I think we need to add in a section for future electricity needs of our growing county. Additional energy needed during the life cycle of this project up to the total amount generated shall be made available for future growth needs. Additional infrastructure required for growth shall be provided, and if proposed projects are put forth that typically require development payment for additional energy, Excel shall provide it at a discounted rate. It's in our community, and we benefit by economic growth in this county. That is how we've survived and flourished with our budgets that we have in Excel. And energy availability is clearly impeding that growth with projects on a pretty regular basis. So I think adding that in is important. And I think that's all the notes that I have. I know there's a lot more to go through. There's a lot more to cover other than those things. But if we don't get our headway on those things, to me, the rest are pretty irrelevant.
Does anyone else have anything to add?
So on my supercomputer here, this didn't arrive until tonight when I got here. So I didn't get a chance to read it. This is what I could give this to Excel Energy that set them back about another 26 years. So anyway, I have no comments yet.
I have a couple. I received I think all of you did receive a rather detailed email from Celeste Coberl, who made suggestions, and I would just like to say, let's share that with our lawyer. A lot more detail was provided here on accountability, on how we should make changes here in tracking things. So Jason, if you just want to pick that up and insert where appropriate. But I think equally important, and even some of the people who acknowledge that they'd rather have no JDA, this is a much more significant document than what we saw before, with a lot more protections in it. There are some things in here I think we want to make sure don't go away, don't come back to us in a second version. And one of them has to do with item number 24, interpretation in relation to PSCW or CPN filing. I think it's really important that that we maintain that intervener role in a CPCN filing. And not, at one point, I think it was presented to us that it was an either-or path, that we couldn't do both. With our outside lawyer, it became very clear with Rebecca from Atolis Law that we could hold both both roles. So I think we want to keep that. I think that's 24B. And I think it's also really important, this indemnification category. It may sound like it's just trying to protect elected officials or staff. It's not. It's all encompassing. There's a cost here in the event that something does go wrong, or trying to protect our collective community from disaster. And I think that indemnification, I can tell you in the prior role I had in my company, there's no way they'd let me sign something like this. Hold harmless agreements, we're not allowed. So in the event that Excel agrees to this, that is a very powerful statement that would protect the county and all the taxpayers going forward. So I want to make sure that's unwavering. So.
Well, with all the public comments and the things that we have in mind and the things that are brought forward by some of the committee members, probably, I guess I would look for maybe a motion to consider delivering the information that we've gathered tonight and forward that to our attorney to kind of move through all the materials and condense it down and move it forward first back to the attorneys representing us with the TOLAs prior to, if we were going to then move this forward, then next step after that, after their review, would be to come back then and be able to have it go back to the Xcel Energy before we put this forward to the full board. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, I think that sounds reasonable, but I also think that if and when we get that back, we have to have more than 15 minutes to look at it. You know, tonight, this piles on top of a pretty heavy schedule anyway, and I think we almost have to have a separate meeting just to address this, because there's a lot to address. And I think we don't want to go into this hurriedly.
With that in mind, do you think maybe we could say to set a 3-day window or a 5-day window, whatever it would make sense for you to have an opportunity to review and get it back to the attorney so that it gives an opportunity for your comment?
Yeah, I don't know if we could send this back to the attorney when that, if they change things, we could do that at that time also, if that would make more sense. I don't know.
Well, the more we can condense at how much the hourly rate is for the attorney, I'd rather have get as much material to our attorney to review first.
Okay.
And then try to keep those sessions minimized.
Okay with that, yeah.
I would like a motion for that, please.
Yeah, very specifically, Supervisor Shirley, too, of what you want us to give to the attorney to include in there. I know you gave us your whole list, which I'm sure will be on there, but also the Celeste Corbell list. I mean, what do you want us to give to the attorney to ask for?
Okay. I would make a motion that we provide her, or Tolis Law, our comments that were made tonight by committee members. I would say that she should review the additional comments that were provided by community members, and then I would like to put one caveat in there, that since we have not heard from Excel for the period that we have, I would like her to reach out to Excel to see where we're at, if we have a better timeline, and when it is appropriate to move things forward. I would also say that the comments that that were made about the two issues that were, I don't know how you said it, unwavering or unwavering sounds good. That those are very important. So have that direction as well. And then as soon as she takes a look at that, and then share that with Excel. Long motion. No. Listen to the recording.
What he said in a motion. I don't know how to capture that.
I know.
Oh, I'll second. I'll second.
I'm sorry, we can't take questions during this part of the meeting. That's why we had the public comment earlier, and we tried to leave it open. So, thank you. I took notes on the people that had public comment regarding this, so I will also turn those notes in over for the attorney for her, to help her with the review. So we have, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We have unanimous. We'll move on then to, we're going to go back now to item number 5. The resolution. Resolution requesting Wisconsin Counties Association lobby state legislature and governor on legislation for greater local control for Wisconsin counties related to renewable energy. Okay, go ahead.
I will make a motion to approve the resolution requesting Wisconsin Counties Association lobby state legislator and the governor on legislation for greater local control in Wisconsin counties related to renewable energy.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're open then for discussion. Go ahead.
I asked for this to be on the agenda tonight. I think it's important that we go back to our legislatures. I know today was the last floor day for the assembly. We won't hear it till the next session, but that's fine. I think that we need to get this passed through so that the next session begins hearing this. They ended the last session, or this session, with talking a lot about this topic, so I'm assuming that it will be picked up in the same fashion that it will be in the next session. So I think it's important that we get that down there.
I have a question that might have to be directed to staff. I know we're active with the Wisconsin Counties Association. What is our process for informing them of our county priorities at this point?
Yeah, they have, in the fall, at their fall meeting, the September one, they'll have their legislative session. So all the resolutions that counties pass, they can submit that to WCA. And then WCA will have all the county board chairs get together at that meeting and vote on the ones that are priorities that they're going to then move forward with their lobbying efforts. So we would want to submit this to WCA, get it in that list, and then have it approved by other counties.
So to follow up, we are now opening this up where we can have additional ones. For example, we've had a lot of people speak on the need to regulate CAFOs in the county. And right now, many of the concentrated animal feeding operations are applying to, or have applied to expand their operations when we may not have enough acres to spread what they're currently generating. I would like to offer a friendly amendment to expand this to also include local control over CAFOs.
I'm sorry, but
So there was a motion, so we would need a second or the.
I need to do
motion
point of
amend.
order first, before, I'm sorry. But CAFOs weren't part of the agenda for tonight, so I don't think that we should move on that. If you want to bring it up in another meeting, we can bring it up in another meeting.
So I think there's a motion on the floor. If there's no second, then the motion to amend would fail. So Supervisor Rice made a motion to amend this resolution to add CAFOs. If nobody seconds it, then that motion would fail. If there's a second, then you would vote on it.
So do we have a second on the motion for the amendment? Okay. So we'll have that for fail for now. Let's move back. Any further discussion on the resolution? No. With no further discussion, we'll vote.
Not generally. Not generally on these.
Got to look at how we, I guess, is it at my discretion or not?
It's entirely up to the discretion of the chair. The one thing that you did miss today was any general discussion of other items.
Yes, we will, okay, and thank you, I did get that also. We will do general here coming up, so that, because there were two, Laura Conrad, or Connard and Sue Curtis that had general regarding noise pollution and land use, and then clean water. So.
I'm sorry, is there an open comment period right now?
No.
We aren't right currently yet.
Okay.
So, but we do need to bring, I do want to allow these two that did not get an opportunity, that gave cards in regards to their subject matter that wasn't relevant during the other comment periods.
But you're not reopening any solar comments.
Right, we're not going to reopen the solar or any of that, so it's, that part, we're done. We gave the opportunity, so thank you. And your comments matter, so it, just so you know, but we have to keep moving with the meeting too. So, all right. So the thing, so we will do then those two that were sent in after we do this vote. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So motion carries. And just so I don't forget it again, Jason, what I'd like to do then is open up for the general public comments for the two individuals that signed up for that, if they still wish to speak. Sue Curtis. In regards to the clean water.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. It does kind of blend a couple of these things together. We've had a big topic tonight. So again, thank you for all your work and a lot of reading for tonight. As you know, I continue to be an advocate for clean water. I have reviewed the February CDC meeting and the presentation from the County Land and Water Conservation on the current status of drinking water. And I just wanted to thank you first for having that information available. But the report documented some new increasing concerns for nitrates. And again, I just wanted to verify what I'm talking about here. I am from St. Joseph Township, and the St. Joseph Township was recently identified as a Tier 1 township, which means 10% or more of the wells tested were above the Clean Water Act of 10 milligrams per liter. This is really alarming, given that the contamination is really attributed to agricultural use, land use, and from neighboring counties, and given that St. Joseph has very few, if any, current large livestock facilities. In October, you heard from me about the Watershed Forum hosted by St. Croix Cures that hosted expert speakers from the Midwest that clearly shows that nitrates in drinking water is highly linked to cancer and a certain concern for adults and not just babies anymore. Given this information, I wanted to just continue to have you focus on agricultural land use and its impact on our water. And I was hoping that the additional changes to Chapter 15 zoning were taken consideration in that to protect specifically the excessive nitrate contamination from livestock facilities. But also I wanted to speak on the resolution for control of this agenda for the resolution asking for permission for the Wisconsin Counties Association to lobby legislation on the renewable energies. But I also was thinking that given the same issue that we've been dealing with, and it's very similar to what Ms. Rice was saying, I wanted to have you advocate to them also regarding CAFOs and how we need to think about this as a state and encourage the association to lobby farming and commerce organizations to limit the CAFOs in our area across the state. So I would hope that that would come forward at the next meeting. As far as the water quality test wells, I just added this. Thank you for your comment on that regarding the JDA. I do support the use of water quality test wells before, during, and after to monitor also nitrates and other agricultural contaminants, and then as far as PFAS and others that were noted, and that the information be taken at regular intervals and shared with the county land and water department. So if you could put that in your agreement with them. So thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you, Sue. Then Laura Kennard, did you still have? You already did? All right, thank you. I will take it as long as it has nothing to do with something that we've already spoke on tonight.
Well, I was hoping that I could speak on 5, like, because you had public comment on every other one.
Okay,
So I guess that's the
Go
only
ahead.
reason I would have said it earlier, but
sure, come on up.
I even made that comment, didn't I? So, So Scott Miller Baldwin. I just wanted to make this comment about this resolution requesting the Wisconsin Counties Association to lobby. Like, this is the problem with our system. Okay, I'm going to go back to the Constitution. We created the government to protect our rights. You are our representatives. The people at the state legislature are our representatives. It is total irony to me that the system has us believing that we have to go through a lobbyist to communicate back to our legislature. Like, unbelievable. Why can't we pass a resolution? And I'm just going to use solar because you obviously know my views on it. Why can't we pass a very serious resolution that says, state legislature, show me your authority to give the PSC, an elected committee, power over us as elected people here in St. Croix County, and go back to them and say, hey, I'm challenging your jurisdiction over our county with the PSC. Okay, now that's a simple, but no, we are seriously we're going to give a resolution to somebody we pay to lobby them. I mean, it's crazy. It's absurd. We have lost our minds, people. Okay, if you guys can't go back to who you guys all say are our boss, I've heard everybody here like, well, the legislature's our boss. Okay, go back to your boss, write them a nice love letter, sign it by the board, and tell them whatever you want to tell them. I don't understand how we got to pay a lobbying firm to tell them that. So that's just where, I just think it's crazy that that's where we're at today, where we, as elected representatives, can't communicate back to the elected representatives that are trying to force stuff down on us, but we will willingly pay a lobbying firm to do it. I don't know. Got me. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Scott. All right. Wait, Thank you.
All right. Ready for number 6?
We're ready for number 6. Thank you.
Okay, so as the committee may know, the Knowles Nelson funding has been kind of up in the air for 2026. Potentially, it might come back in 2027. But the Land and Water Conservation Fund is also a DNR administered grant fund, and that grant, where we're told, is funded for 2026. The application deadline is May 1st. And so this is the first grant that we believe as staff would really qualify for Eckert and the bathroom out at Eckert and the pavilions at Eckert. So we're looking at maybe 2 smaller pavilions, part of the project. All of the sidewalk and that, we came up with the estimate in this as well. So we're looking at applying for the grant for $593,600. And that cost would be at 50% covered by the grant if it was awarded, and 50% would be the county, and the county board has already allocated those funds through the capital improvement budget for this. So, and this would be a 2027 construction period. So we need this resolution to be able to apply and allow us to sign the contracts and whatnot that might come with that application if we were awarded. If we look at the map, here's the master plan from that area, the bathroom and the shelters, and that would be in the same proposed area. So, any questions on this resolution?
Entertain a motion to approve.
I will make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the Community Development Director to submit a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant application to the Wisconsin DNR for the construction of an ADA compliant bathroom and pavilions at Eckert Blufflands.
And I'll second.
So we have a motion and second. Is there any discussion on this one? No? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Unanimous. So move on then to item number 7 for the update.
All right, thank you again. So we had our public involvement meeting, which is required as part of the TAP grant last Tuesday at the Town of St. Joseph Town Hall. They were nice enough to allow us to use their space. And I just wanted to share this presentation from our consultant SRF with the committee so that you knew exactly what was being relayed to the public. And so, again, the phase 2 goes from where we left off in phase 1 up to County Road V. It just said in that corner. Phase 3, we're working with SEH on the actual design of that. We're at 30% plans as well, but we haven't had a public informational meeting, and so that won't be till probably May, late April to early May. The total trail along the Highway 35 corridor would be about 1 mile, and the corridor along County Road V would be 0.2 miles. The original plan was to go along River Road over past Trout Brook and connected to Willow River State Park. However, that wasn't part of our original TAP grant application. The town of St. Joseph relayed their concerns that they have a lot of concern with the traffic volume along that road. And after we were working with SRF and diving into the pavement widths and the amount of traffic volume that's on that road, there's not an easy way to do an on-road bike lane and that over to Willow River State Park. And so at this time, we have decided that, hey, that's probably not a good option. And so we've cut that portion out of the project. That maybe would be a separate application down the road. But for an average local town road, the car volume is about 400 average daily trips per day. And River Road there is seeing anywhere between 1,300 and 1,800 trips depending on what side of Trout Brook you're on. So it's not even close. There's no fudging there. And the pavement is the minimum width right now for that collector road. So that being said, so that's why the scope is reduced here slightly. This is just kind of showing that the trail going within the right-of-way of Highway 35 up along that Highway 35 corridor. There was about 11 people that showed up for the public informational meeting, so not a bad turnout. Then when it gets closer to County Road V, the town of St. Joe owns a strip of land here that was obtained with federal bridge money back when the Highway 36-64 bridge went into place. And so being that we're this far along in plans and that we've been working with the town, and last Thursday night, the town of St. Joe said yes, and that's what that land is intended for, and that they desire for the county to retain ownership or to take over ownership if possible. There's a lot of agreements because those bridge dollars were tied to it. So we haven't vetted all that out yet. But there will be no charge from the town of St. Joseph for us to use that strip of land in that corner. So we are moving forward with this proposal. The crossing on County Road V there, we're working with our highway department on where that is best suited. Do you push it closer to Highway 35 and that, where people are already coming to a stop, or where it is, it's quite a ways away from that crossing, so people would turn the corner and then they would have to stop again. So it's kind of a unique area there. And so anyway, we're going to work with highway to make sure that it's safe. Here's just some cross sections. There is some terrain in both phase 2 and phase 3. So you can see some areas they'll be pulling it up closer to the road. Some areas will be farther on the back slope of the right of way, closer to the edge of the right of way, depending on the terrain. Again, that TAP grant is 80% funded through the grant, only 20% through the county. And right now, we're trying to do an accelerated schedule. That will really depend on the DOT though, and when they're willing to have us build it. But we're looking at trying to get to bidding in the spring of 2027, potentially with a late construction of summer of 2027. So it's kind of where we're at. Is there any questions on this? Otherwise, I just wanted to provide it to the committee so that you knew what was being provided to the public and to the town of St. Joe.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on it? Go ahead.
My only comment is I think the graphics on this really help to tell the story. I don't know beyond this committee if you house this information somewhere, or is it just here in our committee minutes? That's it?
It's just here, yep,
All right.
for right now. So,
All right.
yep, it's still fairly new information. And these are only 30% plans, so there'll be a lot more details that get flushed out through the other process and that of the design, but this is generally what we're looking at.
All right, thank you.
Any other? All right. Thank you, Jason. So this was basically an update, so there's no actions. Move on then to item 8.
Yeah, thank you to my fan club in the back that stuck around to hear the financial report. I'm sure that's why they're all still here. So really at this point of the year, all I have is January numbers for you. So really I'm going to look back at that second column, which is the fiscal year 2025. This is pre-audit, but pretty close to the end. So Register of Deeds fees were up in 2025, higher than what we budgeted for 26, so all good signs, both for the fund and for the economy in general. And then just flipping through, generally what I look for is I look at that bottom number. When I see red, then I stop and check into it a little bit more. This one, there was some capital outlays, $200,000 that wasn't planned. So really, when you look at it, they were pretty close to budget. And then the UW extension, this is the one where we used fund balance. You guys gave them a 1-year extension on there, but they'll fall back in line then with budget the next year. Resource, land, and water, that's pretty close, just over. Planning was just under. Zoning then, they were under by quite a bit. The bank service charges will go away. I had sent out an email to the county board that all those COVID economic development loans that we had done had finally matured and come due, and that's where these banking fees have been coming from. So that'll stop and that'll fall back in line. And that wraps up the different departments for community development. Any questions on anything in the financials?
Ken, if I could add, so those numbers, we're still waiting on a grant reimbursement from the DNR for parks, about $203,000 out of that, $235,000. There was also some dollars that we had earmarked the wrong way, so that'll be going back. So that's about where parks is gonna end then. There's also another $12,000 check that's not shown in that report that we got back in parks. So I'm thinking that parks is gonna be less than 20,000 in the red for last year. Land and water being in the red, that 19,000, we still have to submit our wildlife damage claim for last year. Deer hunting, now that they have the extended bow season going to the end of January, we have to wait for the invoices from our processors for the deer donation program in order to get that submitted. So that's gonna be about 35,000 and that'll come back to the county. So unfortunately, the long hunting season pushes us out on our grant submittal there.
Thank you for the clarification, Jason. So we can move on then for request for future agenda items. Okay, go ahead.
Jason and I have had some conversation about monitoring and what the DNR does and doesn't monitor. I'd like to see an action item that allows the county staff to monitor I think it's the Willow, Kinney, Rush, and Apple Rivers, that the DNR stop monitoring at some time, taking samples. So I'd like to see us have an action item there. Perhaps you can give an explanation next month, but also an action item that would allow staff to actually collect those samples so that we can take action. Is that clear enough, Jason, what I'm looking for? And then I'd like to see the WCA, a similar resolution that would allow for local control of CAFO head counts, the number of livestock next month. I had a request from the public that we take action on large-scale data centers. I'm not certain that we're ready to do that. I'm not conversant on what the state did. I know it was a big topic, so maybe that'll just be a future item down the road. But the last thing, and I don't know if it's an agenda item, we're going to probably be talking an Excel update, but I'd like to get a sense, once all of this stuff is incorporated, for what Excel's response is. The fact that no one from either the county or the law firm has talked to Excel since November 4th, it feels a little bit like we're spinning our wheels here. We can come up with a longer and longer contract, but if they haven't even seen it to react to it, it feels, I'd like to have a sense on the agenda what their thumbs up, thumbs down, sideways reaction is. So, and that's it.
So Chair, a couple of those items would need county board approval, and there's no county board meeting after your March committee meeting. So those items will end up being held then. If they need county board action, they'll end up getting held till the next cycle and referred to the new committee.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And any other requests for future agenda items? None? Okay. Any announcements? None? All right. So the date of the next meeting then will be March 15th, 2025 at 5 p.m.
March 15th or 19th?
Oh, I'm sorry, March 19th. I gotta put the glasses on. I look dumb, but I can't read. Sorry, guys. March 19th, 2026, not 2025. All right. So date of the next meeting, we're set. So thank you all for being here, and thanks for all the input from everyone tonight. We're adjourned.
Nicely done, Scott.
Thanks.
You know, I come from the insurance industry where we try to hedge all our bets. And it's abundantly clear this audience does not believe that a JDA